Y'all know what it is. Y'all know who it is. It's your boy Pharaoh the Guy, always on the job. I got five. Let's talk. And as always, it's real talk, raw talk. And you know, it's that time again to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell another friend, to share, like, and subscribe. Don't hide. It don't cost you much to touch, so go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Support the channel, support your boy, and above all, support the movement. Welcome to another episode of I Got Five, Let's Talk, the platform podcast. And I'm your host, as you well know, Pharaoh the Guy. Good evening to all. And to all, good evening. Good, or in some cases, from the audience in the from an analytic perspective, maybe good morning to some people. Today, I've been wanting to talk about this subject, like for real, for real. And I found a way how to talk about it without getting in trouble. I talked about it once, and for some reason, I was having technical difficulties during the live. I posted it anyway. It took too long to get posted. Then, out of nowhere, I've stopped having the views that I normally been getting. I've been putting in that work, and it's been showing. And they came with another old trick, shadow ban. So this segment I've put up, but it still hasn't got the views, and it hasn't reached the people that I feel it needs to reach, because this is a topic that I wouldn't say is sincere to me, but it's kind of sincere to me. Why? Not because it's Muslims, or I just feel that the Greater Israel Project is a warning. And if we allow the Greater Israel Project to take part, there is always an agenda underneath that agenda. We've always known Israel to allegedly turn its backs. Some allege that Israel is forcing America into this war that we are in now today. And some should be asking that if Israel was ever in the position that America is in right now today, as in being a dominant mega player, what would Israel do? Would Israel play nice? It has been alleged that Israel has been all over the globe trying to manipulate people. So what I want to do today is give light to the hidden agenda that I think, in my assessment, what will happen if we allow, or if Israel and the Zionist regime is allowed to dominate in that region. It is not Saudi Arabia, Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, no more Egypt, Libya. It is none of them that is the problem anymore. The problem in that region is Israel. Whether you want to accept it or not, but that's on you. Let's hit this content though. And this is just a warm up right here to what the Greater Israel Project is, because a lot of people don't understand or don't know what the Greater Israel Project is. From sea to shining sea, from the Nile to the Euphrates River, and everything in between that. But this is the thing, if you just scratch the surface a little bit, a lot of things tend to unfold. And today, I want to scratch that surface. So today, what I'm gonna do right here is let's get a breakthrough in trying to understand what the Greater Israel Project is.
Israel has never said these are our final borders. Ben Gurion didn't get up on a soapbox and say we are going to create a Greater Israel, and it's going to include southern Lebanon, southern Syria, the occupied territories, Green Line Israel, the Sinai, and so forth and so on. Those are real countries. Those are ancient countries and beautiful, beautiful countries with sophisticated, intelligent people, and like the roots of Christianity are there. And like, there's not, in other words, I mean, there's a sense if you're fighting over Sinai or something, it's one thing, but like Lebanon? I mean, that's like one of the great countries in the world. Syria, same thing, and they're being destroyed.
Political scientist John Mearsheimer, the man who wrote one of the best political books that I think everyone should read, it's known as The Israel Lobby. He wrote it with Steve Walt. Spoke to Tucker Carlson about American foreign policy and even did something that not a lot of political scholars are willing to do. He touched on something known as the Greater Israel Project. Now, before we continue, let me just say, the Greater Israel Project is not necessarily a project that all Israelis have bought into or believe should be carried out. The current Israeli government, though, is littered with people who believe in the Greater Israel Project, from the prime minister to the far right, members of the Israeli parliament, people like Ben Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich. They don't hide the ball. This is what they believe in. Itzhak Rabin was assassinated by a member of the Likud party because he believed in the two-state solution. The Likud party does not believe in a two-state solution. There are videos of Benjamin Netanyahu when he was in his 20s saying clearly that he does not believe Palestinians should be allowed to have their own state. They are not allowed to pursue self-determination.
Now, when she says that, a lot of people would say, even here in America, oh, that was our roaring 20s. We were young adults. We didn't know no better. It was the vibe at the moment. Our parents taught us this. It was embedded into our culture. But what has Benjamin Netanyahu's activities been since then? And to get a little deeper into who Benjamin Netanyahu is and why he's so strong against Muslims in the Middle East, in particular Iran and Iraq, you have to go back to the airport takeover where the Iranians hijacked the airplane and the Israeli special forces went on there and killed every last single one of them. That was Benjamin Netanyahu and his crew. The crew that we don't negotiate with terrorists and all that. Yeah. So this is Benjamin Netanyahu in his 20s voicing the internal him that carries now into the present time, real time him.
So the people in power in Israel right now absolutely believe in something known as the Greater Israel Project. And when you know that, when you understand that, it makes what's currently going on in Gaza make a lot more sense. So with that in mind, here are some more details about what the Greater Israel Project is.
The Zionists from the beginning.
An invisible force is holding you back without you knowing. What if I told you that...
The Zionists from the beginning have wanted a greater Israel. And David Ben-Gurion wrote a piece in 1918, and David Ben-Gurion, of course, is the founding father of Israel. Yes. Wrote a piece in 1918. I don't think it's ever been published in English. It's just in Yiddish, where he describes what his goals are for a greater Israel, right? And it obviously includes Green Line Israel, Gaza, the West Bank. It includes parts of the East Bank. It includes parts of southern Syria. It includes parts of southern Lebanon. And it includes the Sinai Peninsula. Just think about that. That was Ben-Gurion's vision. And this was a vision that was shared by almost all the early Zionist leaders. And there are still many people in Israel.
Now remember them countries that he was saying that includes Lebanon, Syria, things like that. Remember, this is Ben-Gurion's view. This is how he looked at it. So remember his view in the countries that was also pertaining to his view. Remember those countries.
Israel, who are in favor of a greater Israel. They don't want a tiny Israel. The Israel that was created in 1948 is a tiny state, yes. Even with Gaza and the West Bank, it's quite small. It's a postage stamp-like state, right? They want more territory, and they believe they have a historical right to that territory.
Yes, yes. The entire world was promised to Israelis 3,000 years ago. We all know that, right? So this movement really took off after the Six-Day War. So in 1967, the movement for a greater Israel was established. The movement formed a month after the Six-Day War, in which Israel captured the Gaza Strip, Sinai Peninsula, West Bank, and the Golan Heights. So they called on the Israeli government to keep the land and to settle them with Jewish populations. But they want to go even further, believing that Israel is entitled to the entire area from the Nile River, which of course is located in modern Egypt, to the Euphrates River, which flows through Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, from the river to the sea. Now, many people were very offended when pro-Palestinian protesters were chanting from the river to the sea. But who cares about what some Americans are chanting at university campuses when Israel is actually carrying out the policy on their own behalf? So, over the years, Netanyahu has displayed maps showing Israel stretching from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. And in fact, this past September, in a speech before the United Nations, he displayed a fascinating map. Take a look at this.
And then in 2020, we made the Abraham Accords, peace with another 4 Arab states. Now look at what happens when we make peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel. The whole Middle East changes. We tear down the walls of enmity. We bring the possibility of prosperity and peace to this entire region.
Prosperity and peace is laughable coming out of the mouth of that war criminal. But notice that that map didn't include Palestine, Syria, Turkey, or Iraq. And when the only Catholic church in Gaza is bombed, or when Christian churches are destroyed in the West Bank by Israeli settlers, as the IDF, of course, protects them as they carry out these heinous acts, I do not believe for a second that it's an accident. It's an accident? No, it's not an accident. In fact, Daniela Weiss has been saying so loudly for decades. It's not just about Muslims. It's about anyone who doesn't fall in line with their identity, with their beliefs, with their religion.
With their doctrine.
And if you don't believe me, here she is. She's an Israeli settler. Here she is in a documentary that was published by PBS all the way back in 1989. Let's take a look.
I don't see how any person, whether Arab or of any other nationality or any other origin, finding his future here unless he fully 100% identifies with the Zionist idea. And the Zionist idea is a state for the Jewish nation. This is identifying with our tradition, with our faith, with our will to build a state for the Jews, period. And what we exactly want is a state only for the Jews. Sometimes people are afraid to say it because it sounds racism, it sounds discriminatory. Yes, if they want, they are more than welcome to identify with the Zionist idea. But if they don't want, as they express it clearly that they don't want, I don't see any reason why they should stay here.
Lake Como without the jet lag.
But let's be clear, isn't that what countries have said over the years about those that believe in the ideas of manipulation of Jewish people throughout the countries? Wasn't that the same ruling?
They should stay here.
Why, when it comes to the Jews, whatever comes out, the Zionists, let's rephrase that, whatever comes out the mouth of the Zionists, why is it always pretended to be like gold?
Israeli settlers literally get paid by the number of homes they destroy in the West Bank. So don't tell me, oh, these are just unhinged Israeli settlers and they're not representative of the Israeli people. And by the way, I think that there are certainly people in Israel who are protesting what's going on. So don't equate scumbag terrorists like Daniela Weiss and the other settlers to the entire population of Israel, because there have been mass protests in Israel and those people deserve support and they should be commended. However, do not tell me that the ideology that you just heard spewed by that woman decades ago is not somehow representative of the current Israeli government, because it is. In fact, the plans to settle Gaza with Israelis is already pretty public. You just have to pay attention. Here's a headline from the New York Times. Israeli far-right minister promotes plan for Jewish resettlement in Gaza. Bezalel Smotrich described Gaza as an inseparable part of Israel, even as the Netherlands announced a ban on him and another hardline Israeli minister. And if you take a look at what the government of Israel is up to, this week on Wednesday, 6 cabinet ministers and 16 coalition MKs requested that Defense Minister Israel Katz approve a scouting mission for the activists inside Gaza as part of Netanyahu's plan to found Jewish towns in the war-torn territory. And just yesterday,
Johnny Iraqi, long live Palestine, man. Long live Iran, man. Y'all sovereignty, freedom and justice and equality is a mandated thing upon y'all, upon them people, by God, not by man.
Israeli settlers marched to the border of Gaza ready to take that land, to steal it for themselves, even as Palestinians, children, women, innocent men, elderly people continue to get slaughtered. Take a look.
1,000 families, you will see them today marching, are ready to move now, here, as the situation is now, and to live in tents now. We are ready with our children to move into the Gaza area right away, because we believe that this is the way to bring quiet, peace, to put an end to Hamas.
We want to return to our land. Gaza is a promise from God to all the Jews that Gaza belongs to Israel, to Jews.
Y'all wasn't there until 1948. Don't be sucked in by false media. Jews were living in Palestine before the Israeli Zionist state. They were living in peace. But this, like I said, this is part of the greater Israel project that they're telling you about. Let's continue this content because we ain't gonna finish this up. I guess we are.
So the Habi take our land, so we have to return it to us.
These people are terrorists and we support them. We fund them. We give them free health care. We give them our unwavering support. They're some of the worst people on the planet. Again, I do not think they're representative of all Israeli civilians, but they are representative of the Israeli government. And the fact that we support the Israeli government, regardless of who's in charge or what kind of ideology they're carrying out, is wrong. So the United States government does not have a leg to stand on when it comes to violations of human rights across the globe. We just don't.
Hey, shout out to Snowstorm. Thank you for the indulging in the comment section. It says the mandate was created in 1920 and that recognized the Jewish claim that said she is way outside of the Israel mainstream. Well, in 1920, Israelis and Jewish people that claim to be Jewish, those that call themselves to be Jews, were already living in Palestine and have been for centuries before the influx of the Ashkenazi Jew, before the wave, before the bombardment of Jews onto the Palestinian land. Jews were always welcome in Iran and in Israel. Let's be clear. Let's stop with the false narratives. In 1948, when they came, ever since then they've been trying to they've been initiating the Greater Israel Project.
Because at this current moment, we are aiding and abetting. We are funding human rights abuses. We are funding slaughter. We are funding the intentional starvation of innocent people. That is what we are doing. Each one of us goes to work every day. We work real hard. We pay our taxes, and a portion of that money funds the absolute atrocities that you have been seeing on your screen over the nearly last 2 years. That's the reality of the situation. And if it makes me an anti-Semite to say it, then go ahead and call me whatever the hell you want. That's not going to deter me. Because there's truth, and then there are lies and propaganda. And I'm sick of the lies, I'm sick of the propaganda. I know the difference between right and wrong. And if you're kind of, wavering on this issue, you don't know where you're at, my question to you is, why? Why is it that you do not think the lives of innocent Palestinians matter at all?
Because the world is stuck upon the fact that this world,
right after 9/11,
that this world, or should I say, this world is not ready to accept the intelligence and the ideology of the darker people. Not at all. It says they were artificially limited because the Romans and then the Ottomans didn't let them move back. The Sultan even created laws against it, and he just Russian Jews. And okay, now we are talking about history. Every time the Jews have been kicked out of places, it's been for what? It hasn't just been, oh, they're being nice, let's just hate on them. If you go to England, London, Spain, well, in Spain, they were shaving the coins. I might have it backwards. In one nation, I'm going to just put it in like this. In one nation, they were clipping the coins. Then, if you look at a quarter right now, they would take a quarter, and since a quarter was made, since these type of coins were made with silver, they would clip around the coin and then go use that same coin that they clipped off of. Now, some people might say, ain't no big deal, they just took some clippings off a coin. But that coin was money. It was the weight of the coin that signified how much that coin was. Now, if you have a quarter and it has X amount of weight to it in silver, and you go to clip the edges of it, that weight now has weight missing. So when you go to sell it to somebody or trade to buy something from somebody, you're cheating the person you're buying from, because now that coin is not weighed at the weight it's supposed to be. Now just imagine a community doing this to all the money in circulation. They melt it all back down. Now they have more money. They were criminals. They were breaking the law. They were cheating the people out of their right amount of trade money. And then in another nation, they threw a body in the well. They poisoned the water. It's not like, we're just going to say it like this. If you take a child to school and he's in elementary and he get kicked out, he's in the third. And by the time he's in the 6th grade, he's done been to 12 schools. A psychologist is not going to look at the schools and going to say it's because they're in bad neighborhoods. The psychologist is going to say something is wrong with the child. And that's what people are overlooking when it comes to the Zionists and the Jewish people that think like this. It is not the nations that wrong these type of people, but it's these type of people that wrong the nation. That's why they always find themselves in certain situations. Now, people might say, well, what about Germany? Hitler just wanted to... No. I got 5, let's talk. In Berlin, Magnus Herschel was creating and implementing transgender surgery. in Berlin in the 1930s, 20s, 30s, and 40s, Berlin was the home of transgender and high homosexuals. That's why when you see Hollywood elites going to Berlin in those times, you know what they were doing. And then he went to the main heartbeat of Germany and thought he was going to be able to do the same thing and create clinics for people to be doing this. And all Hitler said is, he doesn't want that going on, took the books and burned them, and then whatever happened, happened. Whatever happened after that is up to debate. This is not the day to debate it. Today, we are talking about the Greater Israel Project. Now, if you haven't by now, please hit that like button. Please, it doesn't cost you much to touch. In fact, it doesn't cost you nothing at all. So go ahead and ball, man. Hit that like button, man. Support the channel. Support your boy. And above all, man, support the movement. Yes, let's continue on this content, man. Remember in the first breakdown, she was mentioning Lebanon, Syria, certain countries. Now, what we are about to hear now is an ex-general of the U.S. military who was a presidential candidate. And if you don't know what that means, he ran to be president of the United States. And listen to him in the countries that he said America was going to get involved and go to war with. Now remember, the Greater Israel definitely included Lebanon, definitely included Syria, definitely included, I think I want to say Egypt, Libya. No, I don't think it would be Libya. It's too far. Arabia. So these Muslim countries reside in the region. So pay close attention now to the countries he starts to talk about.
Right after 9/11, about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me." And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, "You remember that?" He said, "Sir, I didn't show you that memo. I didn't show it to you."
I'm sorry, what did you say his name was?
I'm not going to give you his name.
So go through the countries again.
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran.
So go through the countries again?
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran.
So go through the countries again?
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then...
Syria and Lebanon. Remember those two? Remember those two?
Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran. So...
Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Iran, Somalia, Libya. Wow. But I'm going to let him finish, because what you don't know is these countries have something else involved with them internationally on a global scale that a lot of people don't even realize. Yes, it is about them being Muslim, but also about what they control. And the world is asleep to what they control until now. This is what's finna start unfolding and being exposed from this moment on, is Israel's greater hidden agenda project.
When you look at Iran, you say, is it a replay? It's not exactly a replay, but here's the truth, that Iran from the beginning has seen that the presence of the United States in Iraq was a threat. A blessing, because we took out Saddam Hussein and the Baathists. They couldn't handle them. We took care of it for them. But also a threat, because
they took out Saddam, but who put Saddam in power? Who put Saddam in power? They took out Saddam because of Saddam was trying to become what Iran is now.
Knew that they were next on the hit list. And so, of course, they got engaged. They lost 1 million people during the war with Iraq. And they've got a long and unprotectable, unsecurable border. So it was in their vital interest to be deeply involved inside Iraq.
They're talking about Iran.
They tolerated our attacks on the Baathists. They were happy we captured Saddam Hussein. But they're building up their own network of influence, and to cement it, they occasionally give some military assistance and training and advice, either directly or indirectly, to both the insurgents.
Isn't that what America does? Didn't America back Al-Qaeda against the Russians? Didn't America, France, and Israel back Idi Amin against his own people? Didn't America, France, and Israel play in the killing of Thomas Sankara? Didn't it just be exposed that Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu were paying Hamas millions of dollars by way of Qatar? And the Qatar government exposed it and gave up the bank accounts? So what is wrong when Iran does it?
And to the militias. And in that sense, it's not exactly parallel, because there has been, I believe, continuous Iranian engagement. Some of it legitimate, some of it illegitimate. I mean, you can hardly fault Iran because they're offering to do eye operations for Iraqis who need medical attention. That's not an offense that you can go to war over, perhaps, but it is an effort to gain influence. And the administration has stubbornly refused to talk with Iran about their perception, in part because they don't want to pay the price with their U.S. domestic political base, the right-wing base, but also because they don't want to legitimate a government that they've been trying to overthrow. If you were Iran, you'd probably believe that you were mostly already at war with the United States anyway, since we've asserted that their government needs regime change. So, and we've asked Congress to appropriate $75 million to do it, and we are supporting terrorist groups, apparently, who are infiltrating and we've asked Congress to appropriate $75 million to do it, and we are supporting terrorist groups, apparently.
So if America can support terrorist groups, why can't Iran support what they call terrorist groups? What's good for the goose should be good for the gander. That's the problem. America tries to shove down people's throats that what they use it for, it's the best thing. It's the best thing. But when somebody else uses that tool, then it's a bad thing.
Who are infiltrating and blowing up things inside Iran. And if we're not doing it, let's put it this way, we're probably cognizant of it and encouraging it. So it's not surprising that we're moving to a point of confrontation and crisis with Iran. My point on this is not that the Iranians are good guys, they're not, but that you shouldn't use force except as a last resort. There is a military option, but it's a bad one.
I wanted to get your response to Seymour Hersh's piece in the New Yorker to two key points this week. Reporting the Pentagon's established a special planning group within the Office of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to plan a bombing attack on Iran. That this is coming as the Bush administration and Saudi Arabia are pumping money for covert operations into many areas of the Middle East, including Lebanon, Syria, and Iran, in an effort to strengthen Saudi-supported Sunni Islam groups and weaken Iranian-backed Shias. Some of the covert money has been given to jihadist groups in Lebanon with ties to Al-Qaeda. Fighting the Shias by funding with Prince Bandar and then with U.S. money not approved by Congress, funding the Sunnis connected to Al-Qaeda.
Well, I don't have any direct information to confirm it or deny it. It's certainly plausible. The Saudis have taken a more active role. You know, the Saudis...
you were just in Saudi Arabia. You just came back from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, well, the Saudis have basically recognized that they have an enormous stake in the outcome in Iraq, and they don't particularly trust the judgment of the United States in this area. We haven't exactly proved our competence in Iraq. So they're trying to take matters into their own hands. The real danger is, and one of the reasons this is so complicated, is because let's say we did follow the desires of some people who say, just pull out and pull out now. Well, yeah, we could mechanically do that. It would be ugly, and it might take 3 or 4 months, but you could line up the battalions on the road one by one, and you could put the gunners in the Humvees and load and cock their weapons and shoot their way out of Iraq. You'd have a few roadside bombs, but if you line everybody up, there won't be any roadside bombs, maybe some sniping. You can fly helicopters over, do your air cover, you probably get safely out of there. But when you leave, the Saudis have got to find someone to fight the Shias. Who are they going to find? Al-Qaeda. Because the groups of Sunnis who would be extremists and willing to fight would probably be the groups connected to Al-Qaeda. So one of the weird inconsistencies in this is that were we to get out early, we'd be intensifying the threat against us of a super powerful Sunni extremist group, which was now legitimated by overt Saudi funding in an effort.
But let's be clear here. All the banter and rhetoric, the death to America, the great shaitan, the West must fall, all that has to do with America and European powers being in their country, dictating their politics, dictating their economics, and dictating their government. That's what that means. And again, I'm a stand on it. People might say, "Oh, well, it sounds like you're back in Iran and you're cool with Iran." You feel me? Even if I was, and I'm not, but even if I was, an Iranian missile can't even dream about hitting America. Let's get that clear. So for anybody that sounds like, oh, you sound like you want America to fall, the only way America is gonna fall is if the people, the citizens of America, allow our government to fall. But again, that death to America, the great shaitan, that is caused by economic, political, and government interference from America. If America's foreign policy did not dictate sticking their nose into other people's businesses to control and to manipulate, I don't think people would be shouting out death to America. I just really don't. What do y'all think? Put it in the comments.
For to hang on to a toehold inside Iraq and block Iranian expansionism.
A new maritime flashpoint has just emerged, and it's coming from an unexpected direction.
Now, this is where it gets juicy. Because we have heard about the Greater Israel Project. We have heard about from sea to sea and everything in between. We have heard of that. Shout out to Dan Storm in the building, man. Thank you for indulging in the comments, man. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend. He says they can use other words without threatening our families. Once they do, they've asked for it. What do you think we have done by interfering in their government, interfering in their culture, interfering in their very way of life, interfering in their economics? We have directly shattered a nation or trying to shatter a nation by putting blockades to it. Look what America did to Cuba. Cuba isn't saying death to America, but I don't hear no American saying, look at Cuba. Cuba is living in the dark without no bombs. We said, oh, Trump was gonna knock Iran back into the Stone Ages with no lights. Well, guess what? Cuba is going through that right now. Not because it said death to America, only because they don't want to be controlled by America. You never heard about Cuban terrorists? You never heard about Cubans within the last 50 years doing anything to America, but yet America still has blockades on Cuba. So what do you think Cubans are saying about America, even though we don't have nothing to do with the foreign policy that's affecting Iran or Cuba? And I get it, Dan Storm, I get it. Yes, they can use other words, but what other words do you expect me to use when I ran out of all the pleases and all the pretty pleases with sugar on top? How many other words do I gotta search through the dictionary while I keep turning from cheek to cheek? Tell me that. We as Americans give so many excuses for what we done, man. And just instead of just saying we're wrong. But I think Americans are scared to admitting they're wrong, because if they admit they're wrong, ain't nobody gonna follow us no more. But before we get into that, man, make sure y'all hit that like button, man. Hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another motherfucking friend to share, like, and subscribe. Don't hide. I definitely agree with that, Dan Storm, man. I definitely agree with that. But let's be adults here. Iran cannot bring about no harm to America. It's not plausible. And I think that Iran knows this, and they just, it's not really about if Iran can actually reach America. I think for Iran, it's more so get out of our region and let us do us. But Dan Storm, let me ask you this. Do you actually think Iran can bring harm to America? Let's cut all the red tape. Cut all the caution tape. Yes or no? Do you believe that Iran can bomb America? And then I'm going to get into the finishing. Hey, shout out to Jody 8452. The fear threat was sleeper cells. America's been a police state, been a police country before they've even said they were going to be a police country or a police state, right? I think America has one of the most advanced systems of being entwined with the common folk. They might be out of hip, but as in knowing how to control and what people don't like, I think they're very much into knowing the radicals. Like, I don't think that America actually trusts every immigrant that comes in here and starts speaking against America. I think America has a lot of wiretapping going on. Sleeper cells in America? Sorry, buddy. Not so. But to carry on with the content, man, we have seen the Greater Israel Project. We have also seen it on the arm of soldiers in their military outfits, from when it will show a landmass from the Nile River to the Euphrates River. Now, if you remember, and if you was here from when we was watching the segment from the Young Turks, okay. Definitely, Joe D. Definitely, exactly. And my apologies. And thank you for clarifying that, man. That's what this is about. I could definitely, if I say something that's wrong, I'm definitely open for correction, man. But And even if you don't agree with me, still put it in the comments, man. This is not a podcast to where it's one-sided. I love to hear the opposite side to where we start to find some type of resolution as common folks. We may think or we may not be aiming or not trying to change the foreign policy or whatever it is. But us as common people need to have a discussion. And I always say, that's why it's called I Got Five Let's Talk. So again, we heard of the Greater Israel Project from sea to sea. The second was a general giving clarity to that Greater Israel Project when he says that America was going to war with 7 Muslim countries in 10 years. Libya, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Somalia, Turkey. That's 7 or maybe 8. One of them ain't on there. But now remember I said it is not just about these 7 Muslim countries. That's the playbook. The playbook has been feeding us that Muslims, like Jody said, 8245 said, that the perception that we were fed was false. And now look what they're trying to do. He just clarified that America would be going to war with 7 Muslim countries in 10 years. And tell me if they didn't. Did not they go to war with Libya? Yes, they did. Did not they go to war with Syria? Yes, they did. Did not they go to war with Turkey? Yes, they did. They went to war with Lebanon? Yes, they did. Iran, Iraq. Come on now. Somalia. You remember Mogadishu, Black Hawk Down. So the shit was thrown on the wall and it stuck because people started to believe that these Muslims were terrorists and they were coming to take over the Christian values. And they went to war. Okay, thank you very much, Don. Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much. Not Turkey. Thank you. I knew it was one of them. It was just, sometimes, thank you for being there. But these countries were targeted by, in the last clipping we said, by American generals. But now we are starting to understand that America has been controlled by an entity. Conspiracy theory right here. I gotta interject right there because I don't want to get banned. Conspiracy theory says that the American government has been taken over by a foreign entity known as the Zionist Israeli government. America coming up through its days out of slavery all the way up until the 2000s. Never had no problem with no Muslims. We knew what it was about in the Middle East, growing up in the 80s and shit like that, in the 70s and war like that. We knew what it was about. It was about the oil. It wasn't about religion. But now some entity has taken that same structure that we went after and said, instead of saying it's about oil, we're going to paint the picture that Muslims are terrorists. And let's go invade these countries. And I said that all these Muslim countries had something in common that the Greater Israel Project, I believe, wanted. So what you see on the map right here is Somalia. One of the countries in the last segment that the general of the American military said America was going to go after. We saw America go to war in Somalia, and we saw and we remember and we saw the movie Black Hawk Down in Mogadishu. We saw that. We're very aware of that. So let's deal with that. Now on your screen, you see a body of water. You see a body of water here. Now, let's get to the war in Iran. America is making a fuss of what? The Strait of Hormuz. And that's what? A body of water. An international body of water that operates 1/5 of the world's oil and commerce and goods. That's the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I'm not getting off track. Painted that picture. Now, let's watch this content.
Somalia has announced a ban on Israeli-linked ships through the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, one of the most critical shipping routes on the planet. This narrow passage connects the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden, acting as a lifeline between Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Every day, massive volumes of oil, gas, and cargo move through this corridor, so even the threat of disruption here can ripple across global markets. According to the report, Somalia is specifically targeting vessels linked to Israel, signaling a shift from political...
Somalia is specifically targeting ships from Israel. I wonder who got America to go after 7 Muslim countries in 10 years. Never mind that. I wonder who got America to go after Somalia. Why is Somalia targeting Israeli vessels? Oh, that'll be cleared up. Give us a second. Let's run it.
Disagreement to strategic pressure at sea. The move is widely seen as a response to Israel's recognition of Somaliland, a region Somalia considers part of its...
Hold on. Did we not just figure out that apples don't grow on vines? They grow in a tree? What do we see here? Israel sticking its nose and recognizing Somaliland, knowing that this is an internal beef and a civil complaint between Somaliland and Somalia. But why would Israel be the only country to come in and recognize Somaliland over Somalia? Is Somalia not one of the countries that was mentioned in the 7 Muslim countries that was going to be attacked by America within 10 years? So now it's beginning to look a little clearer of why Somalians and the Somalian government is attacking Israeli vessels.
Sovereign territory. For Mogadishu, this isn't just diplomacy. It's a direct challenge to its unity, and the reaction has now moved beyond words into action tied to global trade routes. By connecting this dispute to the Bab al-Mandeb, Somalia's elevated...
Hold on. There it goes again. Global trade routes. The Strait of Hormuz, 1/5 of oil, global trade route. Here it is again. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait. That's kind of crazy now. Hold on, what did he say? I don't understand what you mean by that, Dan, when you say unless you think Israel, what's up with it? Unless you think Israel did 9/11. Please clarify that. But Strait of Hormuz, global trade, merchandise, Bab al-Mandeb Strait, global trade, global merchandise.
The stakes. It's not just sending.
Hold on, and Iran was on that list. Iran was on that list. Now that's an argument. That is an argument, Dan. But see, my assessment is that now that we have the information that goes back as far as Kennedy, and matter of fact, it goes far back as the starting of the central bank in America, of the Rothschilds, and the sinking of the Titanic, J.P. Morgan. It goes all the way back to that. When you get to thinking about, or if you want to implicate the Zionist infiltration of American foreign policy and American domestic policy. Now, if you don't want to accept the Titanic and that conspiracy theory, you have another conspiracy theory that deals with John F. Kennedy and him wanting to see what was going on if Israel had nuclear weapons and the money situation. And if you want to go further than that, then you start to have the Muslim is a terrorist thing. And then you come into 9/11. And who does the conspiracy theory say truly are involved for 9/11? A lot of people said it was the American government. But now we are figuring and finding out about the 5 dancing Israeli men. We are finding about the art students that were not really art students. We are finding out that the American government caught these 5 dancing Israelis and let them go. So when you say the Israeli government didn't make America go to war with 7 Muslim countries in 10 years, I beg to differ. I just beg to differ. Because the beginning wars of America being in the Middle East, we knew what it was about. It didn't have nothing to do with religion. It had to do with regime change that was in favor of America getting that oil. Now, after 9/11, we have this big threat of the Muslims, of Islam. So that is my assessment. And like I said, I could be wrong. And I'm open to being corrected. And I'm open to being pointed out that I'm wrong. But when I look back, the ducks are in line that somebody has been or been infiltrated. Now, back to the Greater Israel Project. Okay, come on, Dan. Come on, Dan. You just told me that if Iran said death to America, it's bootstrapped. If these people were at a precise location filming before a certain catastrophe happened. Now let's go a little deeper. There were over 3,000 Jewish employees at the World Trade Center. None of them went to work that day. Some idiot, they weren't civilians, they weren't American civilians. But the owner of the World Trade Towers, a Zionist sympathizer, just so happened to take out an insurance policy on the World Trade Center against the terrorist attack with planes. And just so happened he takes breakfast every day, but just so happens he skips that day. Go a little deeper. America had substantial warnings of a threat to the World Trade Towers and had, under their own investigation, a group of Israelis that were and could be creating a situation that could create harm to America. Then we have Benjamin Netanyahu saying 9/11 was the greatest day for Israel. Oh, hold on. Not only that, but the guy in the helicopter that captured the second plane going into the World Trade Center is an AI specialist, a live television recording manipulator, a manipulation of the live coverage. I mean, this is all public knowledge. But we are still to believe that the terrorist Muslim did it, though. The early 90s, when the so-called blindy man bombed it, that wasn't even no actual explosion. Hold on, before we get off too much context. Now we see Somalia was one of the countries. We see what Somali has control of.
Message to Israel, but signaling that interference in its internal affairs could carry consequences in one of the world's most sensitive maritime corridors. Even though...
Hold on, Dan, I'm going to just say this and I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to get to it. Let me run this content and we can deal with that. I ain't trying to shut you down. But I just got to say this. Bin Laden and Al-Qaeda are well known connected to Bush and his family. Check it out.
Somalia's ability to fully enforce such a ban is uncertain due to limited naval capacity. The announcement itself carries weight. In a choke point this vital, perception alone can shift shipping behavior, increase insurance costs, and force rerouting decisions. This is also unfolding in a region already under pressure. To the east, Iran has been escalating tensions around the Strait of Hormuz in response to U.S. and Israeli actions, while to the north of Bab al-Mandeb, the Houthi movement has demonstrated its ability to target ships in the Red Sea. Against this backdrop, Somalia's move...
Now, concerning the Houthis, prior to Benjamin Netanyahu recognizing Somaliland as a sovereign nation, he was there 4 years prior to that. 4 years prior to him recognizing that, there were no problems with the Houthis as being labeled terrorists. There was no problem with the Houthis with these ships. But I've said in the other war report that in order for these mega players to stay around, they need conflict. Where is these people getting these guns from? Where is these people getting this type of weaponry? I mean, I know Victor Bout Boot is back out. I know America traded him for the dumb bitch fucking Brittany Griner. I mean, shit. The Houthis are in Yemen, but now there's a problem now that Israel comes snooping around. Now that gives validity to maybe why America or Israel or European countries need to be in the area.
That's another layer of military power, but through political escalation tied to the global trade artery. And that's what makes this moment significant. What began a dispute over recognition has now
global trade artery. Remember that. Global trade artery.
Reached one of the most strategic waterways in the world. One decision, one response. And now Somalia has placed itself at the center of a growing maritime pressure point that the entire world is watching.
Israel is attacking the Gaza Strip and attempting to annex it.
Now, that was one part of what I think and my assessment of the hidden agenda is. This is the second one. And if you haven't put two and two together, we are talking about the Strait of Hormuz. We are talking about the Bab al-Mandab Strait. And these are critical, global, international, however you want to frame it in your mind, waterways of trade, oil, and natural gas that the world needs. Not once. So those are two of the world's 4 major trade routes. I mean, 2 of the 4 in that region. Let's finish.
Many experts believe this is because it wants to restart its Ben-Gurion Canal project. This canal project is an alternative to the Suez Canal, which connects the Mediterranean to the Red Sea, establishing connectivity between Europe and Asia. An alternative would be through the Gulf of Aqaba. A canal would be dug from the tip of the Gulf of Aqaba.
Now you may say, why would Israel want to do that? And what you got to understand is that what the argument is when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz is that that is not a body of water that was created by Iran. That was a body of water that was there naturally. And maritime law says that you can't control a natural body of water. Now you may say, well, we talking about the Suez Canal. No, that was created. Just like the Panama Canal was created. And that's why these countries are able to charge a toll for going through them. Because the country created that waterway for international and global trade. Therefore, they need to be compensated for that. And this is what Israel wants to do with the Ben-Gurion project. Israel wants to create a secondary, as I should say, to the Suez Canal. Instead of everybody going to the Suez Canal and paying the toll, let's get them to come through Israel in the greater in the greater Israel project, or just Israel right now. But as you see, that comes with a lot of backlash.
Aqaba, passing through Israel's Negev desert and connecting to the Mediterranean Sea north of the Gaza Strip. However, this canal has some drawbacks. For one, it would be 100 kilometers longer than the Suez Canal. Therefore, even after its completion, many commercial companies may prefer the Suez Canal. Furthermore, its construction would require nuclear blasting, which could result in nuclear fallout, and its construction will cost more than $100 billion. With that much money, the Suez Canal could easily be widened and deepened. Actually, Israel and other Western countries use the Suez Canal, which is under Egyptian rule. Egypt benefits greatly from the Suez Canal. That's why, when Egypt nationalized the Suez Canal in 1956, Britain, France, and Israel jointly attacked Egypt. This resulted in the Swiss War. Since
look at them countries. France, Britain, and Israel. France and Britain have already been main mega manipulated players through centuries. Now Israel is getting involved. And now Israel is saying that they have a greater Israel project. And from what we see now, that goes all the way to Egypt.
Then, Egypt's economy has benefited billions of dollars from the Suez Canal, and if Israel's Banu Gurion Canal were built, Israel would have the same benefit.
Now, like he said, if Israel was to create the Ben Gurion Strait, or whatever they would call it, Israel would benefit immensely from that. But as you see, it would take nuclear blasting in order to create that. And not knowing the natural backlash you will get from that from Mother Earth. So, wouldn't it be just smarter to take over the Suez Canal away from Egypt? It's making money. Let's see these comments. But that's the thing. I wouldn't say nuclear on the spectrum that what we would think drastic measure nuclear, but certain nuclear entities and aspects got to go into creating that. You can't just use it with all dynamite. You have to be precise. And that's the terrible thing of trying to create that much space and be precise without being precise. It's a worldly effect. So now, the Greater Israel Project. Thank everybody that's been rocking with me, that's been here. Thank y'all for hitting them comments, man. Thank y'all for hitting that like button, man. It don't cost y'all much to touch, so I appreciate it very much. I am drawing a picture just in case you haven't seen it. America and Israel wants control of the Strait of Hormuz. America and Israel wants control of the Bab al-Mandab Strait. We've also seen that they want, that we know is included in the Greater Israel Project, is the Suez Canal, which is behind or in front of the Nile River, whichever way you're looking at it from. So if they have the Suez Canal, they're going to have the Nile River. If they have the Nile River, they're going to have the Suez Canal. And as we saw, that has benefited Egypt greatly. And they have done a tremendous job with allowing trade to come through there unrestricted. They have been doing a great job. But now what's this? This is Turkey. And like Dan said, Turkey wasn't on the list, but Turkey has been being painted in the media as bad peoples. Now we have the Armenian genocide being mentioned for the last 5 years. It has become synonymous almost with the Jewish Holocaust. And now we have seen that these countries are calling for regime change in Turkey. And like I said, it's not just the Muslims. It's not just the Muslim countries, but what does these Muslims control? And you might look at Turkey and you might say, well, Turkey doesn't control no bodies of water, no international trade. They ain't got nothing like the Suez Canal. They ain't got no Strait of Hormuz. They ain't got no Bab al-Mandab Strait. Let's run this content so you can be amazed.
You know what Turkey really controls? Not just land, but one of the most powerful choke points on Earth. It's only about 2 miles wide. That's it. But this narrow strip connects 2 continents. This is the Bosporus Strait, the line between Europe and Asia, and Turkey controls every ship that passes through it. 3,000 vessels move through this route every year, carrying massive amounts of cargo. Oil, gas, essential goods. Some estimates put total cargo at hundreds of millions to over 1 billion tons annually. This isn't just traffic, it's global lifelines. Russia depends on it to move its black...
Global lifelines. Russia depends on it. Who is the main op of Russia? I mean, who considers Russia a main op? America, Israel. Europe can't consider Russia a main op. Why? Because they get the most of their clean energy from Russia. They're getting right now a lot of their oil from Russia. But Russia uses this very strategically. And not even just that, you saw the countries that use that strait to get international commerce to Eastern Europe and out to the rest of the world.
Sea fleet into open waters. Ukraine depends on it to ship grain to the rest of the world. So in a way, this narrow path...
And so there you have it, Dan. Like you said, Ukraine ships a lot of grain. And if you look at a lot of Israel's presidents and prime ministers, where are they originally from? They're either from Poland or from Ukraine. So if Russia is in a war with Ukraine and Russia can't use that to get whatever it needs, Russia will be able to be suffocated to a certain extent, and or that strait can be used for Ukraine only, which will give benefit to the Ukrainians in this war.
Passage helps move both. That's it. But this narrow strip connects 2 continents. This is the Bosporus Strait, the line between Europe and Asia, and Turkey controls every ship that passes through it. 3,000 vessels move through this route every year, carrying massive amounts of cargo. Oil, gas, essential goods. Some estimates put total cargo at hundreds of millions to over 1 billion tons annually. This isn't just traffic, it's global lifelines. Russia depends on it to move its Black Sea fleet into open waters. Ukraine depends on it to ship grain to the rest of the world. So in a way, this narrow passage helps move both energy and food across the planet. Now imagine it shuts down. Ships stop moving, oil prices spike, gas supplies tighten, food shipments stall, and global markets react instantly. Because sometimes real power isn't about size, it's about control. One country, one narrow strait, and a route that can influence the entire world.
A strait that can influence the entire world. Now, I know a lot of people might be saying I'm reaching, but I just gotta ask, why is it these countries that control these bodies of water that are used for international trade for gas, oil, grain, commerce, food, goods. If you look back, you cannot find these countries in the past using these bodies of water as a means to choke the West or the rest of the world into submission. So why now does America and or Israel have an interest in the Strait of Hormuz? Why do they have an interest in the Bab el-Mandab Strait? Why do they have an interest, or why are they saying the greater Israel is from the Nile to the Euphrates River? Why is America and Israel painting Turkey in a bad light now and wanting to go to war and saying Turkey is next on the list? Why? I do not want to find out what America and or Israel would do if they control these international routes. We all talk about the old world, the old order is out. It's time for the new world order. How do you issue in the new world order when everybody is saying they're woke? When everybody feels that they have a right to freedom of speech, a right to do this and a right to do that? How do you get everybody in line when you control the flow of everything? Gas, oil, food, in all its sorts. You need oil to run lights, gas to run cars, food to keep generations going. What would happen do you honestly think if Israel becomes the USA in the Middle East, if Israel becomes a dominant mega player in the Middle East as America is right now, do you think Israel will listen to anything America has to say? Do you think America will be able to stop Israel? Now, people said in the past, oh, they not over there because of the war. They over there because of people, they not doing right. Muslims this and Muslims that. Found out that was a lie. Now they're running the same playbook 50, 40 years later, hoping people will bite it or just keep giving up the conjuncture and banter of savagery, but not knowing the real prize is these bodies of water. The real prize is if they control all of these straits, they will be able to issue in the new world order because everybody would have to fall in line with what they're saying. If they control the Suez Canal, you can't get nothing to Europe and nothing from Europe. Yeah, you might get around the coastal areas, but how much of that commerce and that gas and oil is going to reach into the middle of, let's say, Africa or Europe or little old America? Now, just imagine if Russia is cut off And Russia has to take the long route. Or they want to starve people in Russia or Ukraine or in close regions of that strait. It'll be an ugly sight. If they cut off that Hormuz, it'll be an ugly sight. And you might say, well, why these problems ain't happening to the Panama Canal? Because America owns it. America created a strait or a canal to get paid off of it. That's why you're not having these problems down there, because America created that. And they already took over that land in its totality. But now, these demons, these Jesuits, are waking up and saying, do you not see that these Muslims actually control global trade? At any moment, they can starve us out. We need to control that. Well, why it haven't happened yet? And why are you thinking like that? Because if you are thinking of those lines and you have not done anything to be trustful with, why should we trust you to control these straits? This is something I feel. I just feel this greater Israel project is more than what it is. I've been saying it for a while. I do not believe it is about these countries and actually about them being Muslims. I believe that it is about them being Muslims, but the control, they don't give a fuck who's over there. They want to control these bodies of water in order to control the world. And if you don't see that, let me know. I might be wrong, man. I might be high. Too many Jolly Ranchers or something, you know? Let me know what y'all think, man. I'm gonna go ahead and take a quick smoke break. Shout out to Slothful Bear. I would advise you to go to my other war reports. The war that they really don't want you to see. But my take on Mali, and I said this on the war report, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Ghana, they're doing their stuff, man. They're doing what needs to be done. They have rode the coattails, been underneath the coattails, hid underneath the tutelage of Western powers, and now they are doing something that they don't want the world to see. They are creating their own sovereignty. They are creating their own freedom, justice, and equality, not by Western standards anymore. And I believe what's happening in the Sahel region is the reason why France and the European NATO countries are not involved in the America-Israel-Iranian war. And you might say, why do I say that? It's because Burkina Faso has kicked France out. It kicked the French out. The French no longer owns the natural resource mines in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso was the fourth largest producer of gold in the world. Not just in Africa, but in the world. That was France's infinity credit card. And now France is cut off from that. France doesn't have the ability monetary money-wise. A little tongue-tied at the moment. In order to go to war and to fight a war that you have no right fighting, you would need money, propaganda, war machine, all of that. Now imagine France trying to attack Mali, Niger, and or Burkina Faso because they told them to leave. They would need money to fund that. They no longer have access to Burkina Faso. And France has just taken out all of its gold from the American reserves. Not one gold bar of France's resides in America now. Not one. So I've always said that I believe America and Israel started the war with Iran to cover up what's going on in Africa. Because if you think the Iran-Israeli-American war is bad because they attacked Iran first, when you start to scratch and peel back the layers of the African war that is happening in real time right now, you would see it in the difference. Because France has no reason to be there. France has no reason to fight these people. Yes, these people are trying to take back their sovereignty. They're trying to take back what belongs to them, their destination, their outlook, their ideology. And this is the thing about Africa for centuries. People can complain about the Africans kicking these people out, but these people and these entities have been there for centuries. And Africa looks nothing like Dubai. Africa looks nothing like the Philippines. Africa looks nothing like Shanghai, Japan, Tokyo. Africa looks nothing like these countries. And these countries are not even on the level of France that steals from Africa, Belgium, London, the UK. These countries steal from Africa, Australia, Canada. But Africa does not look like not one of these countries that I've mentioned. So I think that it is in Africa's emergency need to kick these people out and do for self. France has that because, like you say, make it make sense. They have that because they have been stealing from Africa. Why do you think gold is on the rise? Because these people are in control of the gold. They have so much gold now, they are trying to weigh out when Africa is gonna start putting their gold on the open market, because it's gonna rival France's gold. It's gonna rival it. Not only is it gonna be cheaper, but it's gonna be better quality. France has an economical war they have to fight along Africa. Just as well, they have to fight a sovereignty war against Africa. France has too many battlefronts it has to fight right now to be involved with the Israeli-American-Iranian war. That's why you have never seen France and the European NATO countries get involved. Even when Trump asked for their help, they weren't there because they do not have the money for that. This is what they counted on you for, Mr. Trump. They counted on you to start shit and for you to finish it. Not for us. All we do is send a couple of planes and shit. Couple of little men ready to die. G.I. Joes. But you're asking us to, nigga, send ships out here? Nigga, do you know how much money that costs us? Let alone what if one of our fucking destroyers get hit? They don't have the money. And that's why they don't want you to know what's going on in Burkina Faso. Because if you wake up and you see on the news, France no longer has money to be a mega player anymore. And then you see America losing the war with Iran. You're gonna say, oh shit, these little countries, all the ones that we said is terrorists, they're gonna start taking over. Guess what? It's happening already. America was not doing its job as the big dog. Protecting people's sovereignty, being the good mediator, bringing about peace and justice. The jig is up. The jig is up. Well, for Ukrainian army, Ukraine has now become the epicenter of white nationalism, white supremacists. It is the training ground for all white nationalists, all white supremacists, all Nazis, all white racial groups of all kinds. They train you there. And what is crazy is that this is the country that Benjamin Netanyahu, his family, and the presidents before him come from. How do you have Nazis fighting in the Ukrainian army when this is supposed to be where Ashkenazi Jews are from? How does this happen? Why is this happening? Now, France has always been a funder of militias. Has always. The French Legion is the reason why the Green Beret was formed. But, oh, you know what I just noticed, y'all? I fucked up on on my logo. It got 2 L's instead of 1. I just noticed that. I just noticed that. I honestly believe, and I'm going to say it again, what's going on in Africa is the real war. This is the fight for when they split Africa up. The great scramble for Africa, it's happening all over again. The countries, the colonizers that control these governments, these African governments, they are scrambling to keep and maintain control of their puppet governments. But now Iran, like I showed, is sending technology and security into Burkina Faso for its goal. So now, if you think Iran didn't have no money, everybody wants gold more than oil. Conglomerates buy gold. Businesses buy gold. Individuals buy gold. Gold will forever be a hot commodity. So if Iran gets its hands on Burkina Faso's gold legitimately and ends up becoming a mega player in the region, because that's what's gonna happen. The only thing that can happen now for that not to happen is for America and Israel to go full on batshit crazy on Iran. They have to go batshit crazy. They got to do Gaza Part 2. They don't know if the world is ready for that or will stomach that. And the world doesn't know if they're ready for that or ready to stomach that. That's the problem here. Because see, now, not just as I see it, but as people around the world and definitely in that region are making deals already with Iran while they're in an active war. Do you know though that type of signs, what that sends? That means we already see Iran as being a mega player in the region, whether they win this war or lose this war. Iran is gonna be dealt with. Legitimately. Willingly, likingly, or unlikely. But Iran has shown its strength. Now, only thing America and Israel can do is think of a master plan of how to deal with it here on out. Because like I always say, they expose themselves by not trying to expose themselves. They expose their weakness in real time. America and Israel does not really hold that sway of fear to where they can get away with it no more. They don't. And Israel is giving validity to that thought. Is making that thought credible. Why? Because Iran was supposed to be demolished months ago. But they also need this war to drag on until they figure out what's going to happen in Africa. But now they got a bigger problem on their hand because the war isn't going the way that they thought it was going to go. But I also have my assessments when it comes to Iran reaching out to other people in the world. I've always said that they play a dirty game and they play both sides. And in order for you to understand what I mean by they play both sides, you have to understand and understand who is the father of Shiaism. Who created it? What was the purpose of that? And with that, you will see he was a man that went to the extremes of everything. His name was Abdullahi Ali Saba. And he said one of the things that he said of the reasons why he created the Shiites was to destroy Islam from within. So my assessment even to that is, if the Shiites are Jews, they're fighting Jews, they don't care about civilians, maybe this is their way into the ops side in the New World Order. This is maybe their way into having their tentacles reaching into things before they develop into what they need to develop in. But that's my assessment. And the only way that assessment can come true is if Iran starts to do things that line up with American or Israeli agenda. Let's see these comments. It says Iran unveiled new missiles and drones about 4 or 5 days ago. Yes, war is peace. If you check out the war report, you would definitely stay up to date with the war updates and the new atrocities being committed. They don't play both sides. They just do what's best for them like every other nation does. Yes, that's true. But playing both sides is in their best interest. If you play both sides, you will always have control of the outcome. Even if you let them fight, even if you don't like this side and they won, you funded that side. So you still control the outcome. Now, the losers owe you money and the winners owe you money. You control the outcome. And this is what I mean by they play both sides. A lot of people don't know why the ADL was formed in America. A lot of people don't know that there were Zionist Jews that helped create the NAACP. It was Zionist Jews that put what's the lady I was about to say? The other lady name. Rosa Parks. It was the Zionist Jews that was on the bus taking pictures of Rosa Parks that day because it was scripted. It was set up. It was theatrical. Nobody caught it though. This is what I mean by they play both sides. Yet they say that they've always been for blacks and they helped create the NAACP. But let's be honest here. What has the NAACP accomplished? Let's be honest. What has the NAACP accomplished? What has hip hop and all these Zionist owners, what have we accomplished? They play both sides because all they care about is the money, the central banking system. You have to catch on. You have to listen to understand. Not listen to only reply. Can't do that. Hey, y'all know what it is. Y'all know who it is, man. It's your boy Pharaoh the God, always on the job. I got 5 Let's Talk. And as always, it's real talk. Raw talk. Hit that like button. It don't cost you nothing. Go ahead and reach. Support the channel. Support your boy. And above all, man, support the movement. Yes, indeedy. We keep it fresh like Tahiti, like a baby on a thick bitch titty. But yeah, man, that's today's topic, man. Before we get out of here, y'all can run them comments, man. Ask my thoughts. I got like a half a spliff. By the time that's gone, I'm going to address the comments. I'm going to be gone. Any questions? It ain't got to pertain to the war report. Ask my opinion on anything. And just to, like, as a disclaimer, I'm not a traitor. I'm not anti-American. But I'm also not anti-Iran. I'm not anti-Shiite. And one thing, as I always say, that people must remember when it comes to this war is that America and Israel attacked Iran for no reason. There's no getting around that. You have to remember that. In all the banter that you want to banter, all the ways you might search the dictionary, it doesn't change the fact that Iran was attacked for no reason. And if you get into, oh, well, they had nuclear weapons. It wouldn't be like that if Trump would have kept the deal on the table. Trump took the deal off the table. He fucked it up. And instead of fixing it, he fucked it up more. And that's just the cold, hard facts about that. Make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, I Got 5 Let's Talk, and on Facebook at I Got 5 Let's Talk. Also, go subscribe to my second YouTube channel, I Got 5 Let's Talk 2.0. Subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be bringing videos. I'm going to change it up. This channel, I'm going to start only doing, like I do now, only lives. This channel is going to be only lives. My second channel will be videos. Will be like food reviews, my assessment on topics that people send me. If I don't do a live on it, then if I do a video on it, it will be on my second page. So go show some love to the second channel, man. That's I Got 5 Let's Talk 2.0. Please go show some love. Well, since we ain't getting no comments, man, y'all know the motto, man. Take care of each other. And if you can't do that, take care of your motherfucking self. We out.